let's just show one clip of like an example, just so people can hear and know like a little bit of his messaging. Okay, here we go.
That's the one.
There's a large contingent of men out there who don't want to wear makeup, who don't want to be girls, who don't want to be told they're toxic because they want to go to the gym, who want to drive nice cars, who want to have money, who want to have hot chicks. And there's nothing wrong with us. We are not evil. We are not bad. We're not misogynistic. We're not out to hurt anybody. Let me tell you one more thing. When bad things happen, they call men like us. The feminists who hate us and call us toxic, the second they have trouble, they'll call a police officer. Do you think they want a feminist male to turn up or a man like me and you? They need us and they use us. But the second we have an opinion, the second I decide to voice and talk about the things that we talk about, explain our points of view, they want to cancel us. They don't want us to speak. They just want us to defend them, build the railroads, build the roads, be the workhorses, be the slaves, and they think we're not allowed a point of view. Well, they made a fucking mistake. There's a large contingent.
Shoo. Okay, I mean, man, some of the stuff that he just said, we've hit on a little bit in some of our conversation, but watching it back too, after hearing you, Jordan, specifically talk about how he's talking, it feels like he's talking and hitting on something on the hurting heart.
Yeah.
Or the defensive heart. Let's comment on some of that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing there is that distinction of, man, there's hurt there, there's reaction. And like you were saying earlier about the pendulum swing. And so I don't think that we can just categorize it as toxicity. This is a natural response of the human heart to have a vehement response against something that is destructive to itself, to its existence. I want to remind you, of course, he's in and of the world. He's talking about things that are the values according to the world. And by no means do I say that these are the values that anyone in the church should have. It's like, no, he's speaking and he's revealing something that is in the heart that our society has produced in men that is very, very real and will just fester, and right now in society is metastasizing because it hasn't been addressed. It's not being talked about, and it's kind of just left in a corner as a forgotten piece of the whole conversation. We even experienced this as men in the church, where we have things, feel things, we don't talk to anyone about them. And how many? I would say it'd be, if it's not 9 out of 10, it would be 10 out of 10. Of all of the men that I know, that there are things that they do not talk to anyone about in the church, because they'll maybe watch videos about it in the world, hear commentators in the world, but they won't talk to anyone in the church. Because why? Because it doesn't rightly articulate the soft values of Jesus that are held up above the hard values of Jesus. And really what's happening here is it's a cry to a valuing of like what their heart's actually crying out for is to be valued in the places that are the hard virtues of Jesus. Obviously it's just misplaced, but it's like what's crying out is I am fierce. I am a conqueror. I am worth, like this aspect of me, this masculine and harsh and fierce and strong aspect of who I am is actually something that's of value. And it's very easy for us in the church to even overlook that in Jesus. Jesus was fierce. He was unabashedly savage to not only even to the Pharisees, but also just to the Jews, like to many people of his own people who would say something against him. And his response was, "You're of your father, the devil." He was unabashed. He was unafraid. But I think in the church, we've held up the soft virtues: be merciful, gentle, kind, loving. And we don't recognize that there is a part of our hearts that is crying out for, be just, uphold truth, be strong, be take the ground, take the promised land, and just the violent take the kingdom of God by force. And so, so obviously when you don't address these things, this is what happens. Yeah. Men in the world exercise it by their own flesh. So, yeah.
Kev, did you want to make any comments on any of that?
Yeah, I so watching that clip, I didn't disagree with the fact that a man wants a beautiful woman, a nice car. Like, let's be real. Like
Yeah, it's real.
And if I imagine my life, first and foremost, I wanted a beautiful wife. Check. I think that's why context is so important, because there's not a man who's ever pursued a woman that he wasn't utterly attracted to.
That's real.
There's never been a man that's pursued a lifestyle that he was not utterly attracted to.
Wow.
The thing in us is not so. I don't think that the desire in us for things that are pleasing to the eye, or even pleasing to the flesh in a way, right? And I say the flesh, not the carnal desire to make that thing God, but right. The thing that is pleasing to us, right? We eat good food because it tastes good. We wear nice clothes because it makes us feel good. Innately, these things are not bad. They just should not usurp who God is in our lives. So when he says, I'm talking to the man that doesn't want to wear makeup, doesn't want to be a girl, wants a good looking woman, wants a nice car. That is what gets the attention, right? But right. if you say that, right, then you're like, oh, well, what about this? It's like, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about those other things. This is what I want. And I don't think there's any, and that's why I feel like, yeah, he might be talking about having 10 girls. I'm talking about having one wife, right? Yeah. Like I'm not identifying with the heart of where he's coming from, but what he's saying at face value, I 100% agree with. I think that it has been, I don't know if you felt objectified in this way, but I'm a 6 foot, 220 pound male. I'm pretty sure that someone would say, even in this conversation, especially from this conversation, oh, that seems kind of toxic. That seems kind of this, kind of that. But if you were with me, would you feel safe?
Wow.
That's good, bro. Let's go.
So the same thing that you can call toxic can be the very thing that you would call to depend on if you were in trouble. And I think that's the thing, is that the spectrum seems like it's so far, but it's like my mom says this the greatest. She says, the thing that I loved about your dad initially, at some point, sometimes it became the thing that I really disliked about him. Why? Because as you're a man and you are who you are, and you find your space and you stretch out in that space.
Come on.
Well, what happens to everybody else in that space? They're like, oh, right? But in actuality, that is a man's job.
Wow. My
job is to stretch my tent pegs, and that's why Abraham and Lot have to go their separate ways.
That is so good.
Hey.
So my whole thing is like this. One thing my dad always taught me was a man cannot grow under another man's roof.
Oh, come on. That is
a masculine trait, bro.
Wow.
That's a masculine trait. What comes with that, though? What it comes with is I'm very territorial.
Yeah.
I think people talk about jealousy is not a good thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with me being jealous over my wife. Oh, yeah. I'm like 100%. My father. So it's like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? Like, so like who is God? I'm made in his image. God wants a beautiful wife. He wants her unspotted by the world.
Oh, there.
Come on, bro. Like what are we talking about here, bro? Like, are we gonna sit here and talk about like, oh, I don't think a man should want a BMW. I think you should be comfortable in your Honda Civic. There's nothing wrong with the Honda Civic, but if I had to choose, I'm choosing a BMW. Like, why are we demonizing things that in the heart of every person is alive and well, and we're calling things to die that heaven is paved with streets of gold. Like, I don't think that we can take a position to say all things that are nice to the eye are bad for the soul. And so I think like it's very interesting at the very least to hear someone who's obviously speaking from a place of pain, betrayal, whatever the things he's been through, and he's found his enemy. The first thing he said was, feminists.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
He found his enemy. And so he went exactly at the heart of the things that he feels are his enemy. And he drew out like, hey, just because this is who I am doesn't make me evil, because a feminine, or, that feminist thought is, well, that's what makes men evil, which is a lie. So
that's so good. Man, that's good. That's like, I want to drop this mic.
Right. I want to run through a wall.
If you guys haven't figured it out, ones who are listening, my goal is to get these two guys just mics in front of them and just talking about this stuff, because I mean, to me, there's few people who provoke me in just the area of manhood more than these two guys. Wow. That's why I'm having this conversation with them. Okay, so we kind of showed that's some of the messaging and stuff that's resonating, right? I think we've covered that well. Now I want to be very clear again. There are many things that he says. I mean, we're not going to show them on this particular show because they are so vulgar. And they're absolutely repulsive, and we reject all of that. Absolutely.